So help put this into context for a bride or a groom who may be watching or listening to this that feels like at the jump, it may be unreasonable for you to not be able to refund them completely based on their specific set of circumstances. So for anyone who's thinking, you're the wedding band, how does the deposit work? What does the deposit go to? Or, how does this affect the livelihood of the members of your band by having all of these things change at the last minute?
Well, actually, that's one of the questions I've never had to answer before, which is what does the deposit go towards? And in reality, I didn't have an answer. I've always put the money into an account that isn't touched until services have been rendered, until we play the gig. But it's used to hold the date, and it acts as opportunity cost because we pass up on a ton of other offers once we move forward with a contract with a client. We look at Saturdays, specifically in prime season, like a commodity, and it's a limited commodity, and we sell each Saturday at a premium rate. They're in demand, they're guaranteed to book. We never have a year where we don't book every single Saturday from the beginning of May until the end of the year. And when I was faced with questions about why why is this deposit non-refundable, I started to explain to them that we're actually in a partnership here, that there are co-signers. I'm one of the two signatories on the contract. And we have services that we're providing. We have our side of the contract that we have to perform. And I don't mean performing the wedding, I mean our duties to show up ready and able, prepared, and to perform the event for however many hours we've agreed to. And on the flip side, the client has agreed to perform as a host, and they're failing to perform just as much as we are. That's a really hard pill for clients to swallow, though, because rightly so, they feel like victims, and they are. The thing that seemed to be lost with a lot of the clients that were more difficult with us was they didn't see us as victims as well. They didn't see it that we were all in this situation together. And I had looked at a lot of these contracts that wanted to cancel as, all right, we're going to lose 50%, which is the balance of the contract. But it's also the opportunity of performing and getting more gigs out of that because, as I mentioned, most of the gigs we get are from people who are at an event already. And they're going to lose 50%, which is the deposit. And that is a complete, simple, shared ownership of the burden of the loss. That was a really, really hard thing to convey. And truth be told, very few clients agreed to it. They wanted to cancel in full. But in theory, the money, when somebody cancels, is supposed to go to the crew as cancellation pay because they've held the date, they've passed up on other work. I had a specific situation where a client demanded every cent back, which I mean personally is a bit insulting considering how much work I'd put into booking with them. And you can consider that the deposit goes towards the overhead of advertising, all of the equipment, insurance, rehearsal space rent, rehearsal pay. Like we were still rehearsing during this time thinking we're going to get back to normal, at least for a while. But the one of the situations I went through with a client that basically demanded that they be made whole and we walk away completely empty. Uh, I had passed on working with another client for them as one does when it's a prime season Saturday. And that client ended up booking a buddy's band, somebody I'm close with, who we often share leads. And that client wasn't canceling. They were moving their date to next year. And I was trying to explain to them, look, I held this date for you. You took a long time in signing the contract. I passed on some other offers. I know the people who got those contracts, and they're not canceling. So we're losing entirely. And what we passed up on would have been better for us. And all we're saying is that we share this loss together. Almost all the guys in my crew, they're full-time musicians. So they're making money from playing gigs, doing weddings, giving lessons, doing music classes. But the gig economy makes up the majority of all these musicians' incomes, and that was completely out the window. Initially, there was the PPP, which is a Paycheck Protection Program. That didn't work for a business like mine because all my guys are independent contractors, so I can't pay them with that. There was the PUA, which is Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. That essentially ran out in the summer, in July, and a lot of the guys were doing all right with the help of that.
I mean, how many people could go 3 months without a paycheck right now, realistically?
How many people can go 1 week without a paycheck? So it's been 3 months. But because they're independent contractors, because a business like mine doesn't pay into unemployment because we don't technically have employees, there was really no protections for them. And one of the things I figured at the beginning of all this was, well, one of the protections is for anyone who cancels, I'll still pay the guys 50% of what they would have made. And trying to explain to somebody that they're having an elective event. I mean, I think that a wedding is important, and I think that it can be a really great day or moment for people. They are having an elective event. They're spending essentially money on luxury costs. And on the flip side, the receiving end, that money is going towards actual humans who have lives and bills, rent or mortgages, car payments, insurance. I mean, any living cost that our clients have, the musicians have. And I'm paying actual humans. A lot of the time, the income that comes from the business I run is the majority of the money that these people are making per year. And to explain to someone, this money, if you cancel, is going to go to people who need it, that were expecting it, and that doesn't change just because you don't feel comfortable having your event, or you don't want to move it to next year, or whatever the reason is for the cancellation. But that still didn't register. It very often just felt like they're the victims, and because we're a business, we have bottomless, endless accounts full of money. And I think in a Western world country like ours, people are used to dealing with really big businesses like Amazon and Target. And when you want a refund, it's no questions asked. You just get all your money back. But when you deal with small businesses that are, in our case, less than 10 people, it's a very different story. I was lucky enough to have always operated in the sense that I don't spend deposits. I know a lot of photographers do. I don't blame them. I think that people can use deposits however they want. It's not dictated in the contract how it's used, but I've always held it. So I had the ability to pay people the balance of their deposit, but I really wanted to pay the guys out and basically didn't the entire year because of circumstances like the ones I'm describing.